that. Stay there. Stay there for a few more secs. Wow, wow, wow.
So come on! Come rise and shine the rising. Come help us all to cross. Come join the children
You're all the lovely men.
Let's advance Australia fair. It's time to advance Australia fair. It's time to come rise and join the rising. Come help us all to cross. Come join your children singing. Let's advance Australia fair. It's time to advance Australia fair.
Okay, let's jump right into it. Got these. We've had a great
G'day,
day.
g'day.
We've got Mark on board. How you going, Mark?
How are we?
I've
Good,
got to
my
put
friend.
you
Good.
into the triple thing now.
Oh,
So Mark's
beauty.
a
Look at
bitch.
that. It's all happening now. Fancy tech. Look at that.
That's the thing. Okay, Paul and I were in Sydney, but Mark, you were in Townsville. How was the Townsville March? What was the crowd like and stuff like this?
The crowd here in Townsville was very, very good. I think it was one of the biggest numbers we've seen here, you know, going back to the COVID protests, which were probably the biggest protests we've ever seen in Townsville. I think today was comparable to the biggest day we had in the COVID protest days. It was great. Everybody got along there, with the exception of this one woman who had this, you know, migrants are my mates, and she was approached by other people that I was approached, I spoke to, who went up and said, "Well, I'm a migrant and you're a migrant. We're all friends, right?"
Yeah.
Huff. She's walking around with apples under her arms. I don't want to give her any, you know, actual pictorial
Apples
evidence,
under her arms.
yeah, you know, like when they walk around like this, you got apples stuck under your arms, you know, 10-foot tall, bulletproof, looking for a fight sort of people, you know, and like she a sole army of one. It was amazing. But yeah, she stood in front of the protest. Like there was the coppers, and then there was this, you know, bestial person with her thing happening on about how she loves migrants and migrants are her friends. And then came this procession that just didn't fucking end, man. I'm there with the camera going, I don't think I can get ahead of this crowd before they get to where they're going. It was huge. It was big.
That
you
is
know, so,
fantastic.
yeah. So I played it in a previous podcast for all those you can see. I think it was 15 minutes to round it up from the start of that march to the end of it. Everybody walking past, which is quite impressive for a small town such as Townsville. There have been people reporting that it was just a minor 400. I'm like, I think we got that in the first minute or two. But, you know, there were big numbers. The Katter Party turned up in, you know, all members of the Katter Party were there, which was probably the first time I've seen them politically really stand behind a rally here in Townsville. We had former vets, people who have fought and died for this, or didn't die, obviously, but were prepared to die. People who fought and were prepared to die for this country stand there and say how disgusted they've been to see, you know, migrants come in here and burn our flag, a flag that they have fought under. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah,
but look, it was very quick in and out. Sorry,
that was bad marketing. Burning the Australian flag was bad marketing, and then just saying it was a piece of silk. Bad marketing, man. You're trying to.
Well, we'll get a hold of their flag and see how they feel about it.
Yeah. Paul, how about yourself, Paul? I've been with you all day going through. I know this. You must be a bit tired. Say we had a big walk and then a walk back. But how was your thoughts on today?
I think just replay that intro clip of the images and the vibe. You know, you could see from the video, if you put it as video evidence. I thought some of those images just captured, you know, the feeling. the cops, you got there and you could see there was riot police and all that, and helicopters flying overhead, and but everyone was very relaxed. You know what I mean? There was no sense of we better get out the batons and put and there was people of all colors and races, and
yeah, man.
It was really an opportunity to say, hey, we don't want to spit on the flag. We want to value it. We want to value the culture that it stands for. And people of all types came, and it was pretty amazing, wasn't it?
It was amazing. That's what I saw. There was a lot of talk about, that it was predominantly white culture and stuff like this, but I don't think that was reverberating. It wasn't resonating with everybody. Most people were there just for Australian stuff. Like I got this couple here, I think they're twins, and it wasn't like people going, "Hey, they're Asian." Nothing. It was the crowd was just bloody lovely. It was just really lovely and really respectful. We had one guy. Hey, Paul, how about that guy? We got the mask off him.
Yeah, I love that. I tend to sort of get annoyed, but like we looked at him and we just like looked at him and sort of what did you say to him? Actually, you said something classic.
I said, mate, it's 5 years. We haven't died. It's okay. You'll survive. We're not that dangerous anymore. Come on, take it off. Breathe the fresh air. Be free. And he took it off. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. He was Asian too. Anyway, we got another warrior in here. This is this is what I love. So we've got Paul in Sydney, Mark in Townsville. Wayne, if you're listening, jump on, Wayne. If you went to the Cairns one, the link should be in there. And then we got Mark from and now you have the two Marks met. This is Mark Bat, and this is Mark Neugebauer. How was that?
Yeah.
Closer?
G'day, guys. How you going, guys? Just over here in Adelaide. Good to see you guys.
So how was the Adelaide March, Mark?
Mate, look, to be honest, it was just amazing, mate, to be honest, at the start. I streamed for about 2 hours. The footage isn't great. I just had a look at the download then from StreamYard. It's not the best. It's a bit grainy, but it really doesn't do it justice, mate. When we all were amassed in the park before the rally started, I stopped at the end where everybody was streaming out to go towards towards North Terrace in Adelaide, and I stayed there and just watched tons and tons of people coming past me, right, tons and tons, and I thought, oh no, well I jumped on towards the end of the rally, and as I kept walking, people must have just come out of the woodwork from nowhere, man. Like it just the end of the rally ended up being as long as the beginning of the rally by the time. So I found myself kind of turning around and finding that I was actually in, like, even though I'd let the majority of the people go ahead of me, I turned around, man, and I had my thing up because I had my tripod up in the air above my head, as high as I could get it. And look, I'm disappointed that it's ended up a bit grainy, but it really didn't do it justice. But so look, initially our organizer Mark Aldridge, the coppers were saying, the police were saying, look, we're probably expecting about 500. I've just seen a report from Apple News through ABC. They're actually openly admitting that Adelaide had about 15,000 people. That's them. That's
the mainstream. God.
That's the mainstream media reporting that. Look, I was never ever going to go near.
That is extraordinary numbers.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that link again. But I'm going to report on it over the next couple of days.
Extraordinary numbers. That's Adelaide. I mean, at the moment, we heard that Sydney was 15,000. That was the last thing we heard. That came through Beck Freedom. And I want to say to Beck Freedom, you did an amazing job organizing the Sydney one. That was great. It doesn't look like it's come. I met one old lady was passing and she was tiny and she had the Australian flag on the backpack, and I went up and she was 75 years old and she said, "This is the first protest I've ever been to in my life."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Get out." And she said, "No." And I said, "How was it?" And she said, "I loved it." So what I'm seeing now is I feel like we're the rats at Trabuc and the reinforcements turned up. And yeah, there's a few Nazis amongst them and there's a few others, and a few crackpots as well. But overall, it's just Australians going, enough. Enough of this shit. Get the drag queens out of the kindergartens. Start
That's
charging
it.
for our gas so we don't have $1 trillion debt. Figure out
Mm.
how to make cheap housing for our kids and all this other shit, and stop with your bullshit about this. What's the thing? What's the thing he's
Digital
pushing
ID
at the moment, the
and
climate change thing? And digital.
Right.
Net
Yeah.
zero and all that as well.
Net
And the
zero.
thing is,
Net zero. Fuck it off.
I
Just
was
it's
just
time. This is what Australia said all around Australia today. We've had enough. And
Yeah.
I actually don't think personally, I don't think the new migrants are the problem. They're just making the problem harder because there's no place for them and now things are getting hard. The
Mm.
real problem is the government who's screwed up for ages now, and now we're basically the water's boiling from their screw ups from decades ago, but we're in the
Yeah.
boiling stage now, and we got to fix it.
Can I just
Oh, yeah.
finish then, too, Michael? With Adelaide, we did end up having an amazing rally, but at the end, the coordinator that took over, Mark Aldridge, a lot of time for him here in South Australia. He ended up taking charge of the coordinating of the Adelaide
So
rally
called this-
because there was a lot of influence from obviously the NSN and so forth. So he had 4 speakers lined up, but as it turned out, towards the end, one of them ended up grabbing the microphone and ended up trying to speak, but they ended up cutting the mic. So there was a bit of a scuffle at the end in Adelaide, and that's obviously what the media forecast.
They cut the
media
mic.
focused on.
Yeah. At the moment, we have the federal government. Which is,
Sorry,
I'm just trying to get Mark.
I'm removing it from the studio. I try to put it in there in the background. For some reason, this migrant wants to pop in. I apologize. I tried to bring it in, but it really wants to be said. Well, I'm pulling it out. We'll deal with that later.
Yeah, no worries.
Continue, my friend.
So,
was-
but
it
that
was my
happened,
bad.
Mark. Apparently, Mark, and that happened in Sydney. We'd actually just walked away because we were hungry. We thought it was over. We couldn't hear the speeches anyway because I think their audio must have been set up for 5 or 10. Of course, there was too many. But apparently there was someone got up and was doing sort of a speech promoting Hitler and stuff. But from what we heard, he was shouted down, and that's it. So that was the only thing there. It did get heated in Melbourne. We're hoping Donna might come on soon, or Tom Vogel, but I got a feeling Tom might have had a problem. I'll just give him a call. You girls chat amongst yourselves. I'll just give Tom a call.
And where are you? Up north, Mark?
Yeah, up in Townsville, mate. And it was a beautiful, peaceful march up here. There were 4 people dressed in black outfits, obviously sporting the white supremacist attitude. But I don't think that was the attitude of everybody else that was there,
Amen.
I didn't get a chance to speak to them, although I was happy to give them the time of day, mostly just to try and find out what it is that makes them that way. Everybody who's watched, my presentations and, the North Queensland Freedom Network, I've worked with the Indigenous people. I've worked with people of all types and castes and colors and all, labels, whatever you want. I don't care who you are, where you come from. That's not about, it's all about coming together. That's what's important. So, that kind of segregation is certainly not something I want to promote, but I'm curious about, like, why do you want to do that? And I put it to Shane Canute from the Cata Party today. I'm like, look, you're at risk of being labelled as, white supremacist because you've got these people clearly in the shots in the background here. They're the ones holding the megaphone sort of thing. And it's got, the runes written all over the megaphone, which I think, is casting, our North Germanic and Viking sort of heritage, which I have in me, in a bad light. But you could see people are going to take that and spin it the wrong way. And I asked Shane Knuth, the member for I can't remember exactly which area, but just a little bit further north of here in Townsville, mate, aren't you concerned that you're going to get labelled as a neo-Nazi for standing with these people? And he fundamentally said, well, look, everybody's here for their own reasons, and at the end of the day, whatever reason you're standing up for, so be it. Doesn't matter, everybody's got their own point of view. any point you look at it, you know. And I guess trying to understand the other person's point of view is what this should be really about, you know. And fundamentally, all of us who are upset and pissed off, we're all feeling the same pain, and that pain is being brought to us by our government at our expense. And that is, I think, the real moral of the story here today.
You want to go, Paul?
We didn't have a lot of nice things being said about Albo, as I recall. I don't know if that happened. There were very few politicians that, but I think Albo copped it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we caught much of that. But John Ruddock of the Libertarian Party gave a speech, and everything he said was very reasonable. And in fact, all the 5 speakers we heard, you know, it's a bit like we were all waving the flag and wishing we were back in Australia, you know, like the Australia of, you know, I don't know, 20 years ago. We just want to, want to go back to Australia. Like, the color of your skin, you know, especially before COVID, you know, before we realized that the government could do the shit that they've done on us in the last 5 years. I mean, I thought they were wonderful, you know. But
you finish, Paul. Sorry, man.
No, I'm done.
I was just thinking how remarkable it is that this is like a day of revolution, and yet it should have been Australia Day, because we were flying the flags just like we're celebrating Australia Day. In actual fact, we're under attack from our government and the mainstream media, calling us Nazis and all this other shit. And what were we doing? Flying the Australian flag, our national flag. There was one girl who was filming us from the side of the road, and she was just shaking her head. And I said, "It's okay, my dear. It's your national flag. We're just waving your national flag." And I said, "It's the same, and we're doing it for the freedom to protest or something, which your grandfathers or great-grandfathers fought, so we could have that right." And she went like this to me, and I said, "They also fought, so you would have the right to do that to me as well."
Yeah, absolutely. And just getting back to the free speech stuff, what you're talking about there, Mark, that's exactly right. Because the thing is, you know, these people have their voice, and if they want to hear it, the thing I think that resonated for me at the Adelaide one, where it started to get a bit disruptive at the end, and he got up and people were yelling, you know, let him speak. This is the whole thing about free speech, right? Because I believe, let's say the figures are right, that there was 15,000 at Adelaide, right? There was massive, there was big numbers, right? And I never like to put a number on things because I'm not really good at it, but there was big numbers. Now, when you consider at the front of the stage, there was maybe 50 or so people that, you know, yelled out, let him speak and all this sort of stuff. But the vast mass and majority of people behind in the back were just going, well, what's going on? Let's just wait and see what's happening. Let's not, you know, get involved. The vast majority were there for their own reasons. And this is you hit the nail on the head in saying that we've got to give these guys the ability to have their voice heard, because, and this is just my personal view, but I believe the majority of Australians would actually turn around and go, actually, you know what, I don't align with that view, but you're entitled to have it, because this is the whole thing, right? You're entitled to have the view, but we need to turn around and say, yeah, no, but I'm not kind of cool with that view. So, and if the majority of Australians do that, these people don't end up with airspace, with breathing space to have their movement grow, because the majority of Australians go, no, mate, it doesn't kind of resonate with me where you're coming from. If you want Hitler taught in the classrooms again, if you just want a white Australia policy and all this sort of stuff, I'm not cool with that. And I'll be honest, and I've said it a week or 2 weeks leading up to this march that I'm not supportive of that point of view, but they're entitled to have it. And the more people turn around and say, well, you know what, too bad, I don't actually agree with you, and that's the way it should be.
And we, you know what, Mark, to show you how we used to do that, you'd see it in every pub. How many times you've gone into a pub and there'll be 1 or 2 old guys sprouting up all manner of bullshit, and you just pat, you know, and they go, and you just pat them on the shoulder and go, have a good night, mate. And then you go back to your table. We can accommodate people who have wild ideas. I love hearing people's wild ideas. But one thing I want to bring it back to, though, the thing that really made me glow was how many men were at the march. Sydney, 70% were men, and a huge chunk of those men were young men. And this happened. We were sitting with Paul, and I saw one guy walking up, and he was like by himself, a bit nervous with his flag. And we gave him the thumbs up or something, and he stood there waving it. And he had a bit of a growth, hoodies on, he didn't look like he was doing that well. And then suddenly he's smiling like he's proudly flying his flag. And I thought, how the hell did we get to this? It was so moving to see. All he wanted to be was proud to be an Australian. Because I'm telling you, these young men, that's why I wrote that play, The Brothers, these young men are basically just offered shame. Shame for being white, shame for being Australian, shame for being patriotic, shame for being straight. And here they were being proud together. And that's why I think it'll happen again, because they enjoyed themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And we're pushing for it here in Adelaide because we've got the massively draconian laws being enacted here in regards to the emergency powers that they've enacted them they've broadened them, and it doesn't even have to be a major emergency. So, and Sarah Game was speaking out about that. So it's massive, and they've got net zero 27 here in Adelaide, and we've also got a declared climate emergency though. So they're going full commie here in South Australia, and so there's a lot to march about. And that was my message. It was regardless if it was sort of focused on excessive migration. That was my point the whole time. Whole way through. It's the excessive migration issue that people are raising. But here in Adelaide, we've got a big battle between now and March for the state election, because otherwise, if Peter Malinauskas and the Labor Party get in with another good majority, that's just going to give them exactly the same power as what Albo's done, and just go full steam ahead with their agendas. So there definitely needs to be quite a big pushback.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing how they keep pushing, even now. They're bringing the voice back into a lot of states, even though we said no. And this is what we're saying. I mean, basically, all these marches from around Australia, and it seems to be like 15,000 is the top, probably Adelaide, which is incredible. It's Adelaide. And we haven't heard from Perth yet, but it's amazing that they continue to push it when it's clear the people don't want it. It seems to be like political suicide, but they don't act like that. They're just, that's why I'm beginning to wonder, are we really a dictatorship now? Just this thin veneer of democracy where they just a few virtue signaling things they give us to make us think we're in a democracy, but we're actually
you got
already
it. Now you got it. Yeah. That's pretty close, Michael.
Yeah, we're in that illusionary realm, aren't we?
Yeah.
Which way is it? And I think it's going to come down to what we accept as reality.
Yeah. I mean, look at the way they scoff at anything we put forward. G'day, Kerry. I saw Kerry there too. And they scoff at anything we put forward. I think the Premier of Victoria, someone was asking her a question about the trans stuff because they were pushing it on 5-year-olds, and she just dismissed it as though this reporter was an idiot, and without asking questions. And that's why I think it'd be good to talk to these. Well, they call themselves. I didn't know they called themselves Nazis, but Donna told me no, they actually refer to themselves as Nazis. It'd be good to talk to them because we're in the environment where that sort of group could grow. A lot of angry, dissatisfied young people who don't see any future. They can't afford a house. They've got to pay for their education. There might not be any job once they've finished. One young man is coming on. He's a history student. I think he's already sent us his bio, history and economics. And he said as soon as he finishes, he's leaving Australia because he has no prospects in Australia. This is one of our Australian lads. And he's got no prospects. There's your problem right there.
Yeah.
What about you, Paul? You getting any other thing happening when you were in the march there? Because I was sort of around. There's any other views?
Well, I can corroborate. Some of those images and stories sound like they're made up, but I was there. I saw it. I will say I did notice the men in black, but also there wasn't a menacing vibe, and I don't think the people saw them as a threat in any way. They were just there in their doing their thing, And there were no insignia. There was no particular suggestion of. And the speakers we had were you know, they were measured and fine. And we heard afterwards they had like a open mic for 4 or 5 people, and we've got footage that one of the people next to us sent. You know, bad ideas they just don't fly. Some people just said, I didn't come here for this and left, you know.
Yeah.
So it's the market. If people were going, oh yeah, I really dig this idea, but I don't think it sold really well. A lot of the people, in my impression, weren't there for that. They were there, you know, to be patriotic, and that's not, you know, that's. But by the same token, it's cool. There is a feeling I have that it's not been cool to be white or male or of this culture for a while now. So just for, you know, a whole lot of, you know, people to hang out and say, hey, you know, it's cool, it's okay to be European, settle down, it's okay, and it's okay to be male, you know, and why not? Because it's a natural reaction in a sense to that, like you're not enough, and like, we've got plenty to be proud
the
of.
Adelaide numbers.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, there
it
you go.
must have been more in Sydney.
It would have been more in Sydney. They're trying to downplay it. I wasn't going to go anywhere near numbers, but, you know, this is police estimating 15,000. And look, to be honest, when I looked around, because a lot of people, and to be honest, when I was streaming, people were commenting saying, look, how much longer do you think you guys will be down there? Because we're going to jump in the car and come down. I said, look, just come down, join the rally halfway. And we had a heap of people there, man. So join on the back end of that rally. It was just amazing.
I think the success of this one, the fact that there was no violence that we've seen, maybe a few little scuffles, I think if they do it again, it'll be bigger. It's I could actually see a season of these that are just growing as more people come, and yeah, it's. I mean, basically, right now, COVID has destroyed our identity. You know, it's like we had a culture where we'd never dob on each other. Suddenly, it's a national pastime. You know, there's everyone's and all these. We thought we were Americans and wouldn't. And we really prided ourselves on having common sense, and yet, sorry, but for a period of time, that wasn't very common. And I think now the identity of Australia, the story of Australia, is up for grabs. So the Nazi boys are pushing their agenda, the woke people are pushing their agenda. Everyone's trying to say this. Maybe we should build our new Australia on this or this. The common law people want this.
There weren't many woke. There weren't many woke people that I saw.
No, there wasn't many woke. No. But the woke, as they push, you know, they're trying to do this. So it's, I actually think we have a right as the current custodians of the country, to also have our say and make our presence felt. And that's what I loved, was that I didn't see, all I saw was smiles, handshakes, and the most beautiful thing at all, the beautiful chant, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi,
oi.
That is a war chant now, man, when they do it. Do you know what I mean? It goes really deep.
Yeah, the Aussie hawker.
Yeah, that's us. Whoever, whatever oi, means, that's Australia. Yeah. It was great. Yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant, mate.
And now the Melbourne March, the other thing to talk about, the Melbourne March. Good day, Darren. The Melbourne March. I don't know if Donna will come on. She said she might, but everyone's tired. Of course, they've been out all day. Was they have the police there with all dressed in their stormtrooper gear, you know, the stuff they love, and they look like stormtroopers. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Here's one. Here's a picture from the shrine. So there they were all in the stormtrooper, the front line there.
But don't they look a lot like the neo-Nazis? Like,
that's what I mean. That's your thing, Mark. How do you tell them apart?
Yeah, I can't figure out the difference. If it wasn't for the high-vis jackets that said police, I wouldn't know the difference between the police and the neo-Nazis, because they were dressed
probably
the same.
The guns give it away, mate.
And they
maybe
stood
the guns
the same.
Give it away. The big rubber bullet guns give it away.
The neo-Nazis didn't come with guns, at least not
that's
yet.
Right.
You know.
Look, well, maybe they're off the same team. Maybe they're part of the same team, though.
Anything's possible.
The question is, though, if you turn up to a rally and you surround the protesters like that, do you think that'll calm things down, or do you think that'll actually almost start instigating trouble?
Yeah, well, it's what here at Townsville, one of the people I spoke to who did speak to the police asked them, walked up and just said, "Wow, a lot more than we thought, eh?" And they're like, "Yeah, there is." So, are we allowed to do this or what? And the coppers were basically, "Look, we're just here to keep the peace. So long as everything's
Yeah.
peaceful, everybody it has the right to protest. That's okay. So long as everything's kept peaceful."
That's what it
With
felt
the
like in
exception of
Sydney.
there were that one woman who was walking around, apples under her arms, looking for a fight, and she was just storming backwards and forwards the whole time. Anytime other people reported it, I seen it. This one particular individual wanted a fight. Went in there by herself looking for a fight. That's all. That's the only attitude I could get. I do have footage of it. I just didn't think it was worth giving. I guess
her air.
props to that. Yeah, why
Yeah.
give air to it? But I think it's
Yeah,
important
agreed.
to note that the people who are opposing this were looking for a fight, where nobody that was there for the right reasons took that bait.
Is that your picture here,
absolutely.
Mark? Someone sent us a picture here.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's me with
Anderson.
Angry Anderson
Yeah, man. Look.
on Friday.
Oh wow!
And you know what?
Oh,
Angry Anderson was saying pretty much the same kind of stuff that I've been saying for quite some time. That hey, why the fuck would you feed McDonald's to your children? That's child abuse. This country needs patriots more now than they ever have before. And he had this huge, amazing presentation about be careful when you're marching on 31st. Australia needs us more than they ever have before. And then broke into Struth. I had it in my head. Rock and roll outlaw. Broke into rock and roll out, and not rock and roll. We can't be beaten. Dun, 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 dun. We can't be beaten. But yeah, it was a great show, an amazing rock and roll show. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to, briefly, meet Angry Anderson.
How old is he now, Mark?
Struth, he's well into his 70s. And by the end of the show, he was like, "Am I going in this door or that door? Mate, here, I got the door for you. This is the door you're looking for. You all right, brother? All good." So I didn't want to trouble him for any more than a photo. I know people, "Hey, why didn't you get an interview?" I'm like, well, look, when you're the roadie, you don't disturb the talent. It's just a general rule of thumb. To get a photo was good enough for me. And to be in the presence of such greatness.
Sorry, Mark.
No, you're all right. To be in the presence of such greatness was good enough for me.
Yeah, man.
Anybody who got to see that show and anybody who's seen what Angry's about, fuck oath, man. There's a man who's on our side, which is really good to see, considering we've seen the likes of Johnny Farnham and all those who have, got the dollar behind them. Whereas Angry Anderson, who, inspired the likes of Guns N' Roses. He's an inspiration to bands like that, but never really made it himself, which is really fucking sad, in my opinion. Still standing to the standard top-notch moral code, and perhaps that's why he never made it, because he was never willing to bend his moral compass to, whatever was going to make me money. His moral compass said this is the right way. And, money may have led him this way or that way, but his moral compass kept him straight down the fucking line. And I reckon that's maybe why he didn't make it as big as he possibly could have.
Well, David Thrussell says that. David Thrussell and his band Snog were doing really, really well, but he wouldn't comply. And he'd sing what he wanted to sing about. And, of course, that was it. So this has been something in our culture for ages. I'm just watching this from Buckley 71, though. At the Darwin March. Buckley, could you tell us how many were at the march? 18-year-old said he had to go to university in Norway because he couldn't get into university in his own country. He's angry and standing strong, impressive young man. This is what we're meeting. This is it now. I'm finding a lot of everyone says that the young, they don't care. I'm finding the opposite. I'm finding they're really pissed off. And they tell me that a lot of their friends are talking more about it now, because for a period they thought, oh, this is just like a phase, which is like COVID phase, and I'll go back to normal. Now they realize normal is gone and that they're going to be left with an enormous bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyway, I've got to shoot off, guys, but I'll just
No worries, Mark. Thanks for coming on and giving us the inside, man.
Just before I go, there's another screen share there, and because you're thinking about interviewing, if people want to get an idea of what these people actually believe, there's a Masters of Your Own Destiny. Thomas Sewell speaks on the 10th of the 8th. You'll hear exactly what his views are, what their views are, and they're going to have the megaphone. It's about a 30-minute speech, I think. So anyway, if people want to do that.
No worries. Thanks, Mark. Take care, brother.
All right, guys. Take.
No worries.
I was a bit too quick. Sorry, Mark. He's gone.
There's
yeah, there's it's so interesting, because Leon isn't with the show anymore. He's decided to take a break, but he told me, he said, look at what's happening. It's just, he said, with the Sydney March, he said there was people at the front of the march holding up pictures of the Ayatollah Khomeini, and then the next week there was Nazis walking down the center of Melbourne. It's like, what? And in amongst that, it's just a lot of very good, normal people, even like Angry Anderson. I mean, even though he does what he does, it's he's still just a patriot. And the best sign I saw today was patriotism isn't racism. And I thought that was the best sign.
And I feel like that's something that's really been pushed on us for a long time now, for generations, particularly after what happened with the Nazi movement in Germany. That patriotism and national pride is a horrible thing to have. And it's facilitated that, I guess we should just let these people come in and do whatever the hell they want sort of attitude, and that's the big problem. And I pointed out earlier in the podcast that I just did, was it's not about racism. It's not about where you come from, who you are. Like, let's face it. According to the recent stats, there is less than 1 million people who identify as Aboriginal. So maybe 900,000 to give it a nice round figure, right? Of those 900,000 people who identify as Aboriginal, how many of them are pure blood? I'm guessing a very, very few.
Very few.
So even with that few amount, you're somehow engaged in multiculturalism, in migration. The vast majority, like even if you just look at, all right, cool, we're just going to acknowledge only our Aboriginal heritage, which sadly some people do. I've seen those people who shit probably whiter than me at times, going, oh, I'm Aboriginal, but what about the rest of your blood? What about the rest of you? That come from migration.
And
these are things we need to acknowledge.
When I was going around Australia interviewing people, the Aborigines that would turn up and I had about 3 of them, kangaroo skins, face markings, all the gear, were whiter than you, Mark. They're almost as white as Oosterhouse's hair. Anyway, Oost, you're looking really tired, man. You've had a big day. You want to shill off? Because I might let Richard on and no one will get a word in.
Let's get Richard on. I'm sure he'll have a whole new perspective. All right.
Good to see you again, brother.
See you, Barry.
Okay, Richard has been sent. Thanks for
Have
today,
Paul. Again.
Great, man.
Well, actually, for the first time.
Feel free to stick around. It's just you're looking tired and weary, man. It's not mine. Richard, I've sent you a link if you want to pop on. Yeah. Oh, the other interesting thing though was when we were all together working with the flags, it was great. But when you're first getting there, it was like nervous. Do I bring out this flag now? Can I wear this flag in Sydney where I'm surrounded by the train station we went to? We were the only white people. And it's not like I'm not racist at all, but I'm thinking if I put this flag on now, am I like going, it's really interesting social norms. But that woman I played, the woman who is the Maori, the Samoan, she actually works with homeless people. And what she said was, she has mothers with kids and families that she can't get houses for. They're living in their cars, they're living in shelters, living in hotel rooms, they have no cooking facilities. But she said this week she had a family comes from Afghanistan, brand new in, and they're given a 4-bedroom house immediately. So it's like queue jumping. And this is what I think people have trouble with. We have to look after our own first.
Yes.
And
People
then
have a
once we have
problem
it
with
funded. Yeah, sorry, Paul.
people have a problem with unfairness. Even capuchin monkeys, there's an experiment you give two monkeys a grape, a piece of carrot, and they're happy. A piece of cucumber it was. And then you give one a grape instead of a piece of cucumber. And then the next time you hand the cucumber to the other monkey, they throw it. So the point is, primates don't like unfairness. They recognize unfairness. When you're not being treated equally, I forget about supremacy, just equality.
Yeah.
Not being second class and not being ashamed. I'm not talking supremacy. I'm not talking about hoisting some sort of supremacy unit. The fact that we actually had a group of people that were, I don't know, probably 95% white. I don't know, 90%, something like that. I mean,
90%.
That's almost astounding. That we consider this like I can't remember the last time I saw so many whiteys in one place. Maybe that was a trip to the 70s. But does that make us a bunch of Nazis because we have European heritage? Does that
Jane,
make us
I don't give a
racist?
fuck. Sorry, Jane.
Yep.
I love it.
Agreed.
I love it. I don't care what it's been used before. Sorry, Paul. Keep going.
That's it. I'm just saying.
Oi, it's a Nazi thing. I was like, fuck off.
Since when? Who the fuck decided that Aussie, oi, oi,
and
is
why
an
do
Nazi
it?
thing? And what fuckwit? Like, what drugs were they on? Next thing you're going to say, like the New Zealand hawker is that a neo-Nazi thing too?
Yeah,
it's the same mentality in my mind.
I will say, Benny, that song "Baby Shark," when they started using that as a psyop to keep the protesters awake at night on the lawns of the New Zealand Parliament, that was a low act. Blasting that for the anti-mandate protesters. So, they can't spoil the tune, when they use it.
I do think you're right, though, Paul, that it's equality we're a fair, it's a fairness is in our national anthem, Advance Australia Fair. That's why we got that song is resonating so well, because at the moment it's bullshit. It's really bullshit.
I don't think they meant fair as in fairness. I think they meant as in party.
Yeah. No,
at your expense.
Another thing is I often meet up with 50+ guys. If you're a 50+ guy who's looking for a new job, good luck, and yet they've got from 50, they're not allowed to retire till they're 75. That's 25 years before retirement, where they've just got to do piecemeal work or gardeners or anything like that, where they're actually a great workforce. You know what I mean? So it's yeah. The other person we met was a guy. He's might come back on the show. I interviewed him and his friend. They were in Bondi, I think, near where Paul used to live, and they just had a protest. It was a gentle, peaceful protest early on, and 125 of them, or over 100 of them, got thrown in a maximum security jail for over a week. One of them was a mature, mature. I'll say this before Richard comes on. He was a survivor, I think, of the death camps, been as a kid, or something. He was a Jewish guy anyway. He was so devastated he killed himself afterwards. Oh, wow. And so I'm hoping the boys will come on and tell this story, because they're actually now looking to go to court and they want to go public about it. So yeah. Anyway, here comes the Rich. So boys will come on and tell this story, because
our Victorian connection.
Our Victorian connection.
Anyway, here comes the
Rich.
Rich.
Coming on. Where on Rich? I've got to change it around. Hold on. Yeah. There he is.
Here we are. Well,
Rich, I'm going to kick you out. You've got a big echo. Maybe your headphones.
Somebody's playing a video.
How's that better? No, sorry, it's my phone. I was listening to the show on the phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Richard,
right, boys,
how was Melbourne, man? And that you don't do protests.
I don't. And I went
This
today.
is your second.
I haven't been in a protest in maybe 2 years, 3 years, something. Probably since I
Now, you
last
did
hung out with
one
you.
in Ballarat, Bendigo, Ballarat or Bendigo.
That's right.
Yeah.
So look, obviously I've always been quite vocal about my views on mass immigration destroying this country. I've seen this country go from a really beautiful country with everyone knows what an Aussie is. You know what I mean? Like full of Aussies to something completely different. And I've always sort of what you would call a mild amount of migration, like a small number, maybe $10,000-$20,000 a year. 20,000 amount of people was something a society could cohesively incorporate. You know what I mean? And but it's just gone to crazy numbers. It's up to I think 50,000 a year. Is it? Sorry, 500,000 a year.
Bob Catter was saying it was something in the vicinity of 400,000 last year.
Yeah, it's 400, 500,000. It's 100. That's just way too many. And
given that there's 900,000 indigenous here in this country, you can't tell me they give a shit.
All European countries. It should be noticed that it's happening to Ireland, for example, which is a country that never oppressed anybody. The Irish people are not known for their colonialism. As a matter of fact,
IRA.
Yeah, well, we don't need to give them a shout out, but go if you want to give a shout out to the IRA, go ahead. And people
I'd just like to point out that they did have problems, and that was from the English. So they've been territorial kissing for quite some time.
The Irish fought the English for 500 years, and in the last 100 years, it was very nasty. The troubles, since right back the Revolution of 1918, wasn't it? Or 1916, I can't remember the exact date, but they've been fighting them for over 100 years. And then, finally, that conflict was very internecine and seemed to be something like the Israel-Palestine conflict, but finally it died down at the end of the 90s, and they got the IRA to basically hang up their spurs. And then as soon as that happened, the globalist politicians took over. They somehow elected a gay Indian man, took over, became the Tessiop, which is their word for prime minister, and he took over, Ireland, and then immediately began to flood it with immigrants. And this is a beautiful place where you can go to like a little town in Ireland. There's 200 people there, and and it's just like stepping back in time 50 years or 100 years. What they're doing to a little village like that is they're moving in 400 immigrants straight away, and so immediately the Irish are a third of the population. This is ridiculous. And they were go ahead, Mike.
Strategically, from a human point of view, if you're a minority, you're not going to do well. Unless for some reason you got the government behind you, like the trans bullshit. But if you're a minority, you won't do well. And at the moment, we're still the majority in the country. And I have no problem with migrants, no problem with people of other races. I enjoy them. I enjoy talking to them. I enjoy finding out about them. I do have a problem
with it. I do have a problem.
I remember, just to show you the things, I met this Iranian guy, and this was when the Iran-Iraq war was going on. And I really wanted to know about him because I didn't know anything about Iran. And he'd been a refugee, and he told me, I said, about your God and stuff. He said, I do believe in God, but I want him to leave me alone, because he'd been a tank driver in the Iran-Iraq war, and he'd watched their religion then making children walk in front of the tanks arm in arm because they would go to heaven first to remove the mines so they could get the tanks through. He'd seen this with his own eyes. He was a visual witness. But he was here in Australia just to be peaceful and start a new life. He was quite extraordinary to talk to. Well, and Dr. Miley is a refugee from the killing fields. And before she got in trouble with APRA, she'd gone from turning up in this country with no parents, unable to speak English, working in sweatshops, educating herself about English while she's working on the machines, teaching herself to get through university, becoming a doctor. And at one point, she had her own clinic with several doctors. She's a testament to how Australia benefits from passionate refugees becoming passionate.
I like foreign people, and I'm fascinated by foreign cultures, but I like them in their own countries. That's right. I like to go visit them. I like to go on holiday. I like to travel. I like to go to the Middle East. I like to, go to Asia and meet these people in their own countries. And when I'm there, I'm very respectful of their customs and their countries. But the problem is our own countries are being destroyed. I mean, think about, what, say, the English people have done for civilization. Think about all the artists and the writers, the English people, and then the Irish people, and then the Scottish, and then the French. The idea that the French people are basically dying, are being destroyed. The German people, how much? Basically everything in modern science and philosophy is German. Just the incredible contributions of European. And look, what I say to people also around the world, of different ethnic minorities to white people, they should want us Europeans to be in charge because we've created everything. Everything you see around us, light, roads, medicine, hospitals, are all a creation of European people. So the fact that we've run the world has been a good thing. Have we been perfect? No, of course not. We haven't always been perfect, but we have done wonderful things, and we would liberate this planet completely so there is no poverty, and we would start sending people to space. And as a matter of fact, if it wasn't for diversity, equity, and fucking inclusion, we'd be in Mars already. We've got fucking Elon Musk ready to go, and we're fucking ready to go to the stars. And we'll take everyone with us. We'll take fucking blacks, we'll take Asians, everybody. But you got to leave us in charge. We got to run things. Why? Because we're good at it. We've had 2,500 fucking years of fucking experience. Ever since the ancient Greeks, we've been running the world, mate. We ran the world under the ancient Greeks. Before that, it was the Egyptians. That's something slightly different. But, the ancient Greeks, and then the Romans, the great Holy Roman Empire, which lasted for fucking, I don't know, about 1,000 years. And that slowly morphed into, like the Renaissance and then the British Empire. And now we've got the American Empire. Basically, still, white people still run the world. And that's the problem, too. And that's why we're hated, by the way. That's why our countries are being destroyed, because there is a group of people, I'm not going to go into exactly who that is, but they want to destroy us.
Donna, you just have to come into Cafe Lockdown, Donna, look at the show, and the link should be there.
There's more than one group of people that dislike us. Obviously the Chinese probably have a problem with us, you know what I mean? Because, we shat on the Chinese for a long time with the opium wars.
We got them hooked on opium so we could make a good deal.
Of course, we haven't been perfect. And,
hang on, no, I did nothing about it. I never sold opium. I just like to absorb it.
Neither. We could, have a bit of reconciliation for.
And I think it's important to separate ourselves from history.
Yeah, let's take that on. There's no way, Richard. Yeah. If you come on, you have to let other people speak. It's not the Richard show. This thing. Now, the thing is, we're never going back to a white Australia ever. Never going to happen. Because I'm in Canberra, and you're walking down.
Made a bit of policy.
80% of the restaurants are Asian restaurants. And they're full of white people loving the food. And then everyone's taking Ubers to get everywhere. And the Ubers are all migrants because Aussies don't want to do it as much. There are Aussies doing it. And then they get home and they get Uber Eats delivered. And there's 90% of the Uber Eats getting delivered by migrants. And I actually talk to them and they say that how hard the job is. If you ever get Uber Eats in Melbourne during the winter, I used to watch them on the trams when I was watching them ride around. They ride around in freezing weather, soaked to the skin, delivering your food so you can rant on about how you're the master race. Basically, you're living in a bubble. I'm going to tell you this. You're living in a bubble of your era is dead, mate. You don't manufacture anything anymore in this country. We don't manufacture anything.
It's not about manufacturing.
Wait on. If it wasn't for the mineral wealth, we would be less than a third world country. We'd be like Guatemala or something. The only reason we can act so like we're so great is because we've got all this mineral wealth that we're sitting on. And we've got an Indonesian army on the coast that's got 1 million in its army. So if America wasn't there to protect us, they'd come in and go, thanks, guys. Why don't you fuck off back to where you ever come from? Australia's ours now. Or you've got Chinese above them with even more people. So basically, yes, we have done a lot of things, but that was a past era. Right now, we are multicultural, whether we like it or not, because we're not going to get rid of these people because we've bred with them. And to prove it, the most beautiful picture we took today is this one. So you got a white father at this thing where it's supposed to be neo-Nazis. Where is it? Here it is. And it's a mixed-race family, and the young boy is sharing the Aussie flag. So what are we going to do? We're going to remove the mixed-race families. We're going to do this. We're going to subjugate them. I think Paul's right. We have to get equality now, which means we need more numbers, white people in the country. In order to get equality, we need to have more white numbers. We need to bring in the Irish, the English, Americans, Canadians, and stuff.
To be fair, New Zealand, I think, is a large quantity. It's in the top 3 of immigration. And I presume...
We could annex New Zealand, you know what I mean? Do a Donald Trump.
Go ahead, Paul.
We could annex, do a bit of a, Anschluss. You know what I mean? grab it for ourselves. You know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of great
and look,
minerals, amount of wealth, and also
Well,
too,
they annexed themselves. They didn't want to be a part of the ANZAC anymore.
With technology and AI, immigrants will become unnecessary. Most people will become unnecessary.
We will become unnecessary.
That's the point. Richard, that's the point. If we're worried about AI taking away jobs and so that we have we have to put everyone on universal basic income because all their jobs have been replaced by AI. Why the fuck are we bringing in, a number of immigrants the size of a small city every year at a time where housing affordability is completely off the scale, and of course no one talks. And no one talks. This is inflation. Because it's house prices going up, we go. This is not inflation, but it very much is. The wages having kept the pace with the costs of life, and people are pissed off, and it doesn't matter what skin color they are. This is how the Nazis rose. It was following a period of hyperinflation in Germany. No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's 80 years later. We're back in a period of hyperinflation, and these are the conditions for a lot of bad ideas.
That's right.
It's really fertile. I mean, good ideas and bad ideas. But
capitalism.
The bad ideas, the quick fixes. I'm with Michael. That we need a meritocracy, and the color of your skin doesn't matter, or your gender doesn't matter. It's your ability to do the job.
Well, why would you be opposed to mass immigration if it doesn't matter? Why don't we just flood the country with 100 million Indians?
Yeah, but that's not what he's saying.
That's not what he said, Richard.
It's just about respect. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what's going on. Respect. It's that simple.
Sure. Yeah. You can respect people all you like, but that's not what that's not going to build the future. You know what I mean?
I got this today. It's
a will to power will build the future.
It's dehydrated bullshit. Just add water. I never knew it would come in handy so soon.
You've got capitalism, you've got socialism, communism.
It's rare as rocking horse shit, eh?
They're both materialistic. They're both materialism. The only option is what's called the third way, which is the mixture of capitalism and socialism, which is fascism.
What we're living
actually, there's a new way. There's a new way. There's a new way coming out of Poland, representative democracy based on blockchain. And I've been approached. I don't know if he's watching tonight. Last time approached in Sydney, a Russian guy gave me the booklet, and I haven't had a time to do a show about it yet. But basically, it's well, currently I'm staying in this suburb, whatever this political place is here. I'll say was in Coburg. And so we vote for, say, Paul is in Coburg, and we vote you in, Paul, with this blockchain. But there's no parties. Every single member of the parliament just represents their electorate. And when you go in, Paul, with this blockchain, you have a list of things that you say you'll try to achieve and do, and things you won't do. And if you don't do them, or it's clear that you're not doing them, the public, there's a process to go through, and the public who voted you in can kick you out. So it's about making you cleaner and getting rid of parties. And so I want to start doing shows about it. I just haven't had time to go through it yet to figure out how to do. So I think there is alternative ways to live, to do it. And it's a time for trying some. You know what I mean? At the moment, the stories we're hearing from Russia is that Russia is doing wonderfully. It's a wonderful place to be. It's free, speak freely and do all these things. We had an Indonesian guy. No, not perfect, but like this. I wish Tom had come on, but Tom unfortunately has been under the weather. He told me he was in Sydney. He was in Melbourne.
Putin is the kind of leader.
And he had a Chinese guy next to him, and they were doing something like show us your visas, show us your visas. So Tom looked at him and said, show us your visa. Anyway, they were joking around, But this Chinese guy said, communism is coming here, mate. It's coming here now.
It's
He's
already
at the
here.
march
It's already
as a
here with
Chinese
Cinderella.
man in Australia at a white supremacy. You know, they organise it.
Grace Rally, it had a
He's there. Almost finished, Richard. He's there because he can see that his country's becoming communism.
there were all kinds of people
yeah.
at today's rally. You know, there are lots of different people, and you know, I mean, there were the National Socialist Network boys or whatever. They had, you know, their little section, and you know, I mean, you know, sometimes there's a little argument between groups and stuff. But I thought essentially, I mean, you know, it's funny, you know, because there's that cliche that you know, the protest was mostly peaceful. Because if you watch the news tonight, they made out it was very violent. But what I saw definitely was mostly peaceful.
One.
I knew there were certain areas where, for example, the far left were kind of like staging their little demonstrations, and they were attacking, you know. The weird thing is too, and I think it was a mistake for the left, is that the Palestinian cause should not be tied to, you know, hating Australians and hating Australian nationalism, because in a sense, you know, that you could support the Palestinians and be supportive of Australia. You could support both causes. I mean, personally, I do. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Palestine, but I do think Israel's gone too far or whatever. I don't need to get into that. But, like, you know, I think it was weird the way it was. You were caught in almost this false dialectic, where you had to, you know, on one side you've got the Australian patriots, and then you've got all these left-wing people who were not Palestinians, by the way. As a friend of mine, I have a cousin who is a converter. He's an Aussie, but he converted to Islam, and you know, he said, you know, most people there, they were not, first of all, Islamic, and they were not, you know, they're just lefties who've taken on the cause of, you know, like Antifa or something, you've taken on the Palestinian cause, and then go beat people up in the name of it. Even though anyone from the Palestinian community would not approve of that. You know what I mean? So there you go.
What I find really fascinating about this particular element, and looking at it from a historical point of view, you know, you two big ones. You've got your Russian Socialist Workers' Party, which became full-blown communism, which was fundamentally left. And then the other big player here is the Nazi, also Socialist Workers' Party.
Well, no, they're not socialist.
But they're openly the Socialist Workers' Party. That's what Nazi means. German Socialist Workers' Party.
I know everything about that.
But it's painted as right wing. Isn't it interesting that both of them are Socialist Workers' Parties, much like the Labour government?
There was Jewish Bolshevism, right? It was Jewish Bolshevism, and then from that came Mussolini, who started fascism, right? That was
Mussolini's just fucking in Italy. That's not even Russia, man.
No, I'm talking about how fascism was born, right? It was the opposite of socialism, right? It you know,
fascism is more of a concept as opposed to a political.
Well, then fascism inspired Nazism. You know, Hitler was a fan of Mussolini, and that's how Nazism was born in Germany. So it is they're dedicatedly anti-communist. You know.
Well, it's interesting because given that under the Russian,
it has some socialist ideas, I believe.
They call themselves socialists, but it's communism.
They're different football teams for the same assholes who are trying to control.
No, rubbish. That's rubbish.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Thank you.
They're different mafia bosses, both working for Spectre. They're all part of the Committee of 300. They don't give a shit about your color or your ideology. They just want global control.
That's right.
That's what people
exactly.
should be. People are saying we want the Australia that we knew, and we want to be free of globalist control. Which you know, if they just got that message sorted, I think we could really progress and have some.
It's really interesting here. Michael Daniel, just wait, Rich. Michael Daniel said we need an Anzac-inspired chant is what we need instead of oi, oi, oi. What's the problem with oi, oi, oi? I was at Tucker Carlson's thing in Melbourne. You were there, Rich. Yeah. And right at the end, after he'd finished, somebody in the audience went Aussie, 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 and the whole audience, and it was full, just went oi, oi. It left goosebumps. I don't see why that's our national pride. I think Australia resides in the oi, oi, oi. It was,
that's our tribalism.
Yeah, I don't see the issue with it. This is the trouble. People get in and go, oh, this did this and this did this. This is how they fuck with your head. You know? This is it.
Well, I do think it was a big success today, no matter what. I mean, it was, even though there was some little scuffles of violence, essentially it was peaceful mostly, even if it's a kind of cliche. I think Sydney was fantastic from what I've seen online. Adelaide was extraordinary. You had a lot of good stuff going on in Queensland. There were people even doing little rural ones. I had a friend of mine who lived up in rural Australia. David Thrussell is over in Thailand at the moment. He sent his
regards. Great time in Townsville.
Thruster said he'd be here, but he's over in Thailand at the moment. So, I think it was a huge success, and it was great the way that there were different groups. There were libertarian people there today, like Paul, and then there were, like these more National Socialist lads, and they all sort of basically got along. There's only one scuffle between Avi Yemeni and the National Socialist Network that was very brief, and I went up to Avi afterwards.
If anyone was going to start a fight, I would have thought it would be Avi.
Yeah, maybe. And I went and got a photo with him. I'd never met him before, but I went and got a photo with him.
He did. I'm just looking for it, Richard.
Completely charming he was. And, I would like to have a chat with him. Because there is, I mean, look, I'm not a Zionist and I'm opposed to Zionism, but I would like to have a conversation with a Zionist. And I could, from a fascist perspective,
a debate,
see the Zionist case. I could understand Zionism from the perspective of, as an expression of radical nationalism. Which it is. I mean, that's exactly what Zionism is. It's an expression of radical nationalism. And also, too, even though we're losing our demographic power in the world, white people, you should look to the Israelis and you should look to the Jewish people who've always been able to exert tremendous amount of power. So no matter how our numbers, we can still rule the world, right? You know what I mean? Absolutely. So, and the Jewish people can...
Why do you talk like that, Richard? Why do you use that terminology? We can rule the world.
Because that's what life is about.
I don't want to rule the fucking world.
Vader, man.
Oh,
I don't want to rule the world.
Oh, life is about you control. So
I just don't want to do it. I want to be a part of a tribe that's where it has equality. I don't want to rule the world.
Just let it be, man.
We have to agree on that. I mean, I've always had an interest in geopolitics.
Donna's here somewhere.
And because if you don't rule the world,
Donna was here and she left.
Yeah. I'm trying to find that picture, Richard, of you and. What's happened to your Facebook, Richard? It's vanished.
Yeah, I'll send it to your Facebook. Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah, it's good fun. Anyway, did you all go to the protest today? Paul, did you go?
Yeah. I was walking with Michael and Kelly, and
cool.
And we had Rosie Marshall to keep us safe.
Oh yeah, you had security.
Oh, yes, she is.
Yep.
Have you seen Rosie?
Here we go.
Be nice now. We've got here she comes.
Oh, hello.
Hey, Donna, how you going?
Good.
So, Donna, you've got this amazing footage. What did you see today? Because I saw a lot of argy-bargy in your live feed with the Melbourne cops who dress up in those stormtrooper uniforms. Sydney didn't have those stormtrooper uniforms, even though they had huge crowds. Do you think that by wearing them, the police are almost pushing for something to happen?
Yeah, because everyone, as soon as we see them, they have their, like there was about 5 black buses, and as soon as we see them, we're all like, oh, here we go, because we're so used to what they've done in the past. And then they did pepper spray, they did knock people around a bit. And I've only heard a little bit of what you guys talking about, but in Melbourne, in my opinion, and I spoke to people that have never, ever been to the marches, and they were in their 60s and so forth. And they didn't want to say the words Nazis, but they were saying they're sticking up for us. They're sticking up for us. And every time they came in, everyone felt safe again.
Yeah.
When they were there.
Donna, safe from who? The police or the other protesters?
Yeah, both, actually. Yeah,
there was other protesters there causing trouble.
Yeah, well, there was Antifa, of course, and all those different.
That's the
people.
threat. That's the threat there.
Yeah, actually,
what were they doing? What were they doing, Donna?
Well, actually, they threw things as well. They pushed their way through. They threw something, and because we'd had threats of possible throwing of urine bottles and stuff, they did throw something, and I copped it, and I'm like, oh no, what is this? And yes, a few thoughts went through my brain, but when I actually finally had a look, it was apricots or something out of a can, so they were sloppy, and and the people that helped me were the Nazis.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
It just
Well, I
feels
guess the blokes,
here.
Look into
you
the
know what I
history.
mean? And blokes,
It
most
just-
blokes don't like seeing a woman getting hurt. You know?
Well, there's a few men there that were. Oh, I don't even know if I should say this, but I'm going to. Avi's bodyguard, as far as I'm concerned, has had no qualms in pushing women. I've been one of them. He's shoved, and I just basically ignored it. But
I saw that today too.
Yeah, and he's pushed women. He's knocked people down with his legs.
He's there with a. It'd be like you, Michael, if you went there with like 2 or 3 like army, kind of like army security guys, like ready to beat people up. I mean, it's just a bit funny that he needs that to go into the crowd. I mean, even though, as I said, there you go. I was happy to meet him, and I'd happily chat to him. But I just like to understand, how he connects the Zionism that he's interested in to, all the freedom movement and stuff. But there'd be an interesting discussion to be had there.
But the thing is, I mean, talking about communism and all that, that's not the issue of today. Today, people went marching. I never heard anyone, apart from people calling out communism, everyone was just basically there who I talked to, because they think all the issues facing Australia, basically all of them together. It's like we're being attacked on multiple fronts. It's just like we're being besieged.
In many ways, you're right, Michael.
From AI, digital ID, getting rid of cash. I mean, even the pub we went to, which we didn't find out till afterwards, wouldn't take cash. If I'd known that before I got the drinks, I would have pissed off and gone, no, I'm not going there. And this is where we are. It's like even noticing now everything's trying to move to self-service in the shopping centers, but that's no jobs. I know it doesn't sound much, but there's no jobs for our young people. There's no jobs for our mature people. That's an extra job. And we're not getting any discount in the shopping centers. There's no discounts in the shopping centers for the food, for the fact that they've got rid of all these employees. And so this is what I'm saying. It's actually down to basics: gas bills, power bills,
mass
rent.
immigration is unsustainable, and that's the point. Whether you're a libertarian or whether you're, whatever end of the political spectrum you are. And in many ways, you are right, Michael, that, it's important to have like a tribe and a community. And you see that community came out today, and that's on a micro level, groups of people all over Australia banding together. And that's very, very important. But, we should also, in my opinion, I'm somebody who likes to think about the macro, the big ideas, because in the end, these ideas need to win out on the global stage. And if they do, and you see that beginning to happen with people like Donald Trump, with people like Vladimir Putin, look, I don't even know about Z or whatever, but there's an idea, instead of globalism, there's an idea called the multipolar world, which is put together by a Russian political philosopher by the name of Alexander Dugin. He believes that the world should be broken up into like spheres of influence, and not everybody has to run their world the same way, because there actually is difference in this world. One of the great stupidities of this diversity, equity stuff is that everyone has to be the same. Everyone has to think the same. No. People like the Arab world thinks differently to the Anglo-Saxon world, say, or, the Russian world thinks differently to the Chinese world. And that's okay. That's okay. We can be different. The African world thinks differently to, most other parts of the world. This is good, So, and that is actually, honestly, protecting those cultures is not racist, and keeping those peoples in those regions is not racist. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of it. It's like you say black power. You can say black power, that's fine. You can say Jewish power. You can say any other ethnic Asian power, that's all good. But the only group of people that are not allowed to talk about their self-interest is us Europeans. And we are the great founders of civilization.
There's something there that you said there, Richard, that I really want to think about, is that the idea of keeping people there.
Yes.
And to me, it seems that it's been my experience that most people are quite happy to just be where they are. Exactly. Most people don't want to move. They don't want to go anywhere. They just want to be wherever they are. So why is it that people are leaving? Probably because where they are,
wars. The globalists create wars.
Really bad.
They create wars, and they create
the people that are leaving where they are and coming perhaps to Australia and various other places are leaving for a fucking reason. Perhaps we should look at the reason these people are leaving and perhaps address that. Like, maybe here's a really fucked up idea that might upset some people. Why don't we stop dropping bombs on them? Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll stay where they are.
100%.
I just want to get back to Donna. because we just hear some stories from your perspective, Donna. In Sydney, the thing that really staggered me was that it was 70% men, and they were striding. They went, and a lot of them were young men who were proudly flying the flag. What was that the same in Melbourne?
Yes, yeah. The majority is normally women, but yes, I didn't think about it.
The majority when we were marching was women.
Yeah, but there's men. Yeah, there was lots of men.
And
I know.
Did you speak to any of them, Donna?
Pardon?
Did you speak to any of them? Did you speak to any of them?
Yeah. I spoke to a lot of people, and they were they're really worried about immigration, mass immigration. They really are worried about it. Yeah.
Richard, before you go on, let's say, why do we have mass immigration? And the reason we do is surely what do you think we have mass immigration for, Paul? Let's go with you before you fall asleep.
I think that they're using it to fuel. It's almost like an invasion force, depending on what percentage it is. You know, the average income and wealth of the immigrants that were brought in is less than the Australian average of the people that were here prior to this insurge. So it's bringing down our level of wealth. And if you bring in another 100 million, say, from the third world, we become a third world country. So you can say goodbye to your free healthcare and your pensions and everything. So it's a question of degree. What is the correct number of immigration, and where do they come from, and what sort of culture would you get? If you brought in 100 million from China, I think we would become very Chinese in character. If they came from Africa, we would become very African. You know it's
10,000 a year is fine. You know, we should have a million.
Yeah, John Ruddock talked about a 5-year pause on immigration, and I think that's more than fair. And I think the underlying problem is the destruction of our currency. It's not just the Australian currency; it's all our fiat currencies, and people are misdiagnosing. We're like Richard. We're like rats in the cage. I don't know if you've seen that experiment.
Free yourself from the cage, as R.D. Laing, the famous psychiatrist, said. You can free yourself from the cage anytime you like. For example, what Hitler did was he simply...
Richard, I'm going to have to let people finish their point before you come in with your point. Because every time we get you on, everyone says, don't ever have Richard back. And I want to have you back. But you have to let people finish their point. Okay. Paul, finish your point.
Richard... We love you, but yeah.
I do love him. I do love him.
But this thing about
what happens when you don't smoke dope? Sorry,
if you have one rat in the cage and you give him random shots from the outside, eventually the rat becomes demoralized, curls up into a ball, and does nothing as it's getting shocked. If you add a second rat to the cage and keep giving those random shocks, what each rat looks at the other rat and says, "You're the cause of my suffering," and they fight to the death. And that's what's happening here. We've got too many rats in the cage being delivered shocks from God knows where. It's the other rat, okay? And it's not the other rat. I keep pointing to the people outside the fucking cage delivering the shocks, and no one cares, okay?
Yeah,
that was my point.
I agree with that. You know, I mean, that's essentially, I'm on the same page there. There's obviously, you know, it's like the red ants and the black ants, you know, and who's shaking the shaking the cage. And of course that's true. But, you know, we all know who it is. You know what I mean? It's this global elite, you know what I mean? Which is, it's kind of multi-ethnic, but it's also, you know, I call it the Globo-Zio conspiracy or cabal or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's just it's anti-human, this agenda, you know, and they are quite openly anti-human. They're transhumanists. They're the ones behind all this AI stuff. You know, it's just...
They're Satanists too, Richard.
Absolutely, they're Satanists.
The Satanists, they've been having a great big blatant party the last 5 years.
I know, and it's funny. And you say
they've been flirting it,
and about the Nazis. Hang on. You're interrupting.
Hang on, Richard Stern, then you.
You know, and people complain about the Nazis and everything, but there's no way the Nazis would have allowed your country to be overrun the way this country is. And there's no way the Nazis would be allowing some kind of transhumanist agenda or transgender agenda or anything. Go back into history and have a study into what fascism was actually about, and you'll see you've been nothing but lied to. Believe me, I have a fucking PhD in this fucking topic. I'm not a PhD, but I'm not reading.
No, but I have to agree. He studied a lot. I just want to go back to Donna for a second.
You've been lied to about this period of history endlessly. Nothing is true about that period that you know. It's just a bunch of media propaganda. And guess what was on tonight at 6 p.m. during while the news is on SBS? It was like Hitler, a portrait of evil. It was like the timing of it is like, okay, so we go a bit nationalist and we get to Hitler documentary.
Before I go back to Donna, I just have to say, Donna, I saw this thing from a young historian last night, and it relates to this. We grew up saying that basically they had a huge crime spree in England, and they had so many prisoners and they didn't know what to do, so they sent them to Australia.
There you go.
Yesterday, this guy's saying that's not the case. What they had was colonies, and they couldn't get anyone to leave their villages in England to go to the colonies. So they came up with these outrageous sentences for the most ridiculous crimes. You steal a handkerchief, you get 30 years. And what they were doing was they were making colonists, basically sending people here. So we weren't sort of so built on criminals as how we've done, like we're built on convict criminals. We were actually, our culture was built on people who were forcibly basically stolen from their country. Yeah. And that it's like a stolen generation, really. I'm going to try get him on because I thought, wow, that's remarkable. Just
it's extraordinary
whether he's right.
How this country began, you know, and the tremendous success story that it's been over its short period of history. How these convicts turned essentially a desolate, nowhere land into possibly the most prosperous nation on earth. And there's a reason that people from all over the world want to come here because of our incredible standard of living. But the sad thing is the more of them that come, is that the more our standard of living is going down the toilet.
But the standard of living isn't done by our skill anymore. We're not producing a skill set like, we're producing
like we inherited it,
the best silicon, the best.
We inherited the
garden. Anyway, we're not making the best cars. We're not making the best computers.
But we're also moving out of the stage.
We've just put all this mineral wealth. And yet we owe $1 trillion. We're basically.
You can cancel that in a minute. You can cancel that in a minute. What you do is you nationalize the currency and you say, oh, by the way, we're no longer paying heed to international trading currency.
Getting back to Donna, wasn't I?
You can do what's called nationalization of the currency. Many of the fascist dictators did it, and their international debt disappeared overnight because the international debt belongs to the Rothschilds. Okay, that's who it is. People go, who's the $300 trillion? Who are we $300 trillion in debt to? Well, it's the Rothschilds. That's who it is. It's them. And that's how they enslave the entirety of humanity. Every poor person on earth is poor because of them. Okay? Yeah.
Thanks, Richard. Donna, do you have any other things from today? Or Mark's back. Did you have any other things from today, Donna? And Donna, I want to thank you for coming on Mantras Moments and joining the community. You've been doing a great job. I know we still got to teach you Rumble, but
I might have it.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts from today?
Well, I don't know if anyone saw Thomas Sowell's speech. Did anyone see that or hear it?
No, I heard it was very good, though.
I saw a little bit of it, yeah.
See, there again, it was really good. Really good. And people
it's far more reasonable than you would think.
Resonated with it. So I feel like, I don't know if it's just Melbourne, Victoria, because we've been hit so hard. I'm not sure, but I feel like we have been pushed so hard that lots of people don't know where else to go, and they hear them speak. And the more they're going to hear them speak, possibly, the more because they're just so for the Australia. They're so passionate about it. And people are hearing them and just going, wow, that's what we want. That was the impression I got.
Well, I met this young man today, and he said, we're the last generation of free human beings. If we don't do something now, the rest of humanity forever will be enslaved. This is an 18-year-old history student. and stuff, the one that's leaving the country. So I think the young people are fully aware they're facing a huge, huge crisis, basically created by us and our apathy of the she'll be right era, where we just let all this shit happen without fucking. You go, Donna. We haven't heard much people. We'll get too rich after you. You go first.
I heard a 16-year-old boy ask me if he could come today with me. 16, and he speaks to me about this quite often. But his mum didn't want him to come because the possible violence that was going to happen. But he's 16, and he knew so much about what was going on, and he's so worried about this country.
I think a lot of people did stay away today.
No.
Great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of people did stay away today because there was a threat of violence. I mean, obviously the media, made out there was going to be violence, and there wasn't really much, at least at the Melbourne protest. I don't think there was much in Sydney or the other ones as well. But you'll notice, obviously, the media is anti this movement, whatever this movement is that we're all part of, right? But it also dovetails into the whole sovereign citizen thing, which is obviously we've got some strange event going on up in Port Bunker at the moment where someone is evading police and. But it was weird because a week before that, on the ABC on Four Corners, there was this huge 1 hour, attack upon the idea of sovereign citizens. Now, I've met a few what you
very
call
convenient.
Very convenient. And David Thrustle's already saying it's a psyop. I can tell. He thinks the guy's already dead and they're just, keeping it going, whatever. Anyway, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But it's interesting the way this is all sort of coming together. And it's clear that this whole anti-vax movement, the freedom movement, all these various groups that are associated with today is a kind of threat to this desire to, imprison, most Australians within a kind of digital prison, 15-minute city. All these ideas have been discussed on this show. But, I mean, I'd love to hear all your other opinions on what you think of that event, and how you think it relates to what's going on.
What, the Desi thing? I'm not talking about the Desi thing tonight. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be a part of a movement that somehow tries to justify killing people. Regardless of who they are.
No one's saying that.
I'm not going to be a part of it.
I don't know anything about it.
Bring it up.
I don't know. I'm not
if you keep it up, I'll talk. I'm just not. And I've actually given my condolences to the police force. We can change Australia for the better without killing people.
Of course.
And all I hear is people justifying, they were this or this. I'm not interested.
We haven't got any. We don't have enough facts to even a formulated opinion.
I agree with that.
Right.
All I'm saying is there's something weird going on. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but there's also people that
whether it's just a universal coincidence or a very well-planned scenario, something's not right. It's very strange that all these things just seem to be happening at the same time. But I mean, that's not to say that things are being planned by some,
Machiavellian
entity, but perhaps a deity. I don't know. But at the end of the day, the best thing we can do is reserve our judgment and not make wild assertions.
That is true.
That's true, Mark. Yeah. Anyway, let's go out with something good. Tell us something, Mark, that you saw. Oh, sorry, I'll get to you in a sec, Paul. Tell us something you saw today, Mark, that maybe moved you when you're watching the march.
I think one of the things that really fucking moved me was that I didn't get a shot of my little girl waving an Australian flag, and
wow,
because I was there to capture what was going on, and it was only when I looked over somewhere towards the end that I seen my little girl waving a flag, and then I spoke to the missus afterwards, and she's like, well, she did what she always did. She went to the playground and she made friends, and her friend had two flags, and her friend gave her a flag, and they both waved an Australian flag as two little beautiful children did, just to say hello and share in the moment. They had no idea about any of the political bullshit, any of the crap that we've talked about today. They were two beautiful little children who met each other in a playground and just said, I have two. Here, you have another.
How about you, Paul? What was something today that really moved you in the march, that made you go, wow, there's hope?
I think it was just seeing the diversity of young men, who were walking proud, were proud to be waving the flag. And I think everything else is just is a sideline. There was a good feeling there. Like from the start, I didn't feel menaced by any of the groups. So I have a lot of hope. I think there will be more, and I hope, like we were saying with Richard, that the globalists, people understand that this is really a battle for all of us to have freedom, freedom from global control. And like you were saying earlier, Michael, about bringing that, or was it Maddie? Maddie was talking about the blockchain-based local governance.
I
think people.
I'll get you the document.
Was it? Yeah. I think it's a stepping stone, but I think it was a good start. Not perfect, perhaps, but I suspect that people haven't want solutions, and they're fed up with the government that has been making all the worst solutions, and immigration is a good place to start, and ask for freeze.
How about you, Donna? What was something today that really gave you hope?
Just a sea of flags. We were walking up to Parliament, and we were on, is it Spring? No, what's the street going up to Parliament? Elizabeth Street? Yeah, whatever
Burke
it
Road,
was.
Burke Street.
Elizabeth and Burke, is
like
it?
Collins. No, I think it's Burke. I think it's Burke.
And I turned around and there was just a mass of people. So I stood there and filmed, and you could see up at Parliament, they're all up at Parliament, but they were still flowing around the corner. It was amazing. It just took me back to the days, the good days where we just had thousands and thousands of people. It was a beautiful feeling because it just felt like we were united again. So I'd say that would be my favourite part. Yeah.
That's a good way to end the show tonight. Now I'm going to Richard. Richard, I saw a picture of you today in the march too on your, I don't know if it's on your page, but it was really beautiful. And that's where I thought, oh my God, that's his second march. And look at him, he's happy. What was something about you today at the march that gave you hope, Richard?
Well, I just think that, something like today proves that our nations are, a lot harder to kill than the globalists would like to think, that our nations are part of our blood and our soul. And that, Australia is, there's only one country like Australia. I mean, New Zealand could be a little similar in some ways, but it's still got its own unique flavour with Maoris and a different kind of accent and everything. So, Australia is a unique place, and it's a beautiful place. And, the people are beautiful, and we're not naturally, nasty or cruel or racist, any of these things. We are quite accepting of other people. And we're also supportive of, people wanting to have a fair go and all this kind of thing. So, I think this desire to, really change the, ethnic makeup of our country is deeply problematic. And also will be met with strong resistance, of which you saw only probably the beginning of it today. I agree that this is a movement that will probably, happen every 2 months or something. It's probably what it should happen today, because the media kept telling them to be violence or that, this or that is going to happen. So, I think this is just growing. This is such a beautiful country. And, and actually, if we want to keep it a country where immigrants do want to come here, we need to keep what's special about it. And it is heartening to see people of all different ethnicities, because it wasn't only white people who were there today. There are many people who've come here of different ethnicities, some recently, some not so recently, and they've totally embraced our culture, and that's a great for all different kinds of people, and because together we will build something extraordinary, and we just need to see this globalist insect for what it is that preys upon the heart of the people, and and expel it. And we don't need to do it violently or anything like that. We just need to say no to it and say no. We have a beautiful way of living here. And we just need to go back to that. We need to unite. We need to take the best of technology. We need to reject the negative of it. We don't want to replace the human mind with artificial intelligence. We want the human mind to flourish with the, in unison with some limited AI, and things like that. So this is, I think this is just the beginning of the revolution today. I think it was a great thing.
Yeah, I definitely think this is like the first load of marches, which was a small number, even though they were big, like Epic is seeing ABC's come out now and said Epic was the biggest match in Canberra history. So I think there's been one initial, which Donna, you were a part of, and so was Paul. I don't know if you were there, Batty.
Yeah,
but, and we got Richard to come to one. But this to me is like the second wave. And there's going to be bigger numbers now because COVID's not the issue. The issue now is our home. What the hell happened to Australia? But I'm going to go out with someone who gave me hope. I was sitting at the table with these people, and for ages, everybody was passing. They're all passing. Everyone giving a thumbs up. It was really fantastic. And then suddenly, someone grabbed me in a bear hug. And I actually thought for a moment that I was in trouble. And then this woman did an interview with me. So I'm going to go out with this. Today, I saw great hope for Australia. But the thing that made me really moved me, was seeing so many proud young men. Their chins were up. They were striding. They were looking at each other for courage, and they were flying that flag as though they truly loved it. And that was a beautiful thing to behold. That was beautiful to behold.
Amen.
This March, and we finally got someone who admits that they're racist. So you come on.
Hi, yes, I am racist.
What's your name?
I'm Gina.
How did you enjoy the march?
Oh, I loved it. Like, you know, I love it. I am Samoan. Like, you know, I am Samoan. I came from Samoa. We entered this country. We were eating each other. Yes.
Nice.
But it's thing, we enter Australia legally and lawfully. That's how we got to this country. It's a yes, but that's the thing, like, you know. Okay, well, I am from a German heritage, like, you know, but I'm not white. We're all different shades of Nestle. Yes. No, but it's the thing, like Australia, like, you know, no, we are Christians. It's about Australia.
Yeah. So you find that on all our facial passes. She was amazing and just really brought me up. All right, I'm going to let everyone go. This is a new song called Remains, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow there was an interview we did with a guy called Dan Perry. He was the nurse that was basically giving a child, holding a child down with two other nurses to give them a test, a COVID test, and the child suddenly screaming, "How am I doing?" And he woke up, and it's still, and the interview has gone huge. It's gone everywhere. So he's coming on tomorrow to give us a more in-depth thing of it, and he truly admits that he was completely brainwashed, and it was this moment where he suddenly, the light came in. So it should be a fascinating interview tomorrow at 8 o'clock with Dan. Who have you got on Mantra, Donna, this week?
A lady talking about water.
Oh, Walter.
Water.
Oh,
No,
water.
a lady speaking about water. Yes.
No worries. And Mark, what about you on Friday? You got anyone?
Yeah, Jeannie here has been an amazing. I don't want to say activist, but a very dedicated human being towards fighting for our rights here throughout the COVID narrative. Also working amongst the My Place group and the fluoride elements that we're trying to work with here. We're hoping to drum people back up because things have fallen. But after what we've seen today, perhaps there is still hope here in Townsville, and we can get people fired up and we're ready to stand against that which is falling upon us.
Great. Take care, guys. See you during the week.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
How did we reach here? Where the view looks like the view I used to see. But somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone, and yet remains to the shops and the prices are going up faster than our pay. And yet I'm doing the checkout like I've been demoted as a slave. Oh, somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone and yet remains. Went to the bank and they greeted me like I was trespassing on their land. I wanted to scream, "You're built on my toil," because my blood was getting ready to boil. But instead my soul whispered to me, oh, somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone and yet remains. How did we get here? How did we go so wrong? It's like we were singing or trying to sing, but someone keeps changing the song. But I remember when you were there with me, and the world was a child's painting full of trees, and the days were like today, except the days were louder and the laughter longer. And I just want to go there. I just want to go there. How did we reach here, where the view looks like the view I used to see? But somehow everything has changed. Everything is gone and yet remains.